Stasis Warlock is very good and has been good for a very long time. My leading theory for why a lot of people don't play Stasis Warlock is because Solar Warlock exists in most settings, and Solar happens to be really hot this season right now. This season also happens to be a really good time to be a Stasis Warlock, so if you've never tried it out, this is your opportunity, for I'm going to tell you how to navigate being a Stasis Warlock. The key component of a Stasis Warlock these days is the Osmiomancy Gloves. This is the most popular set of gloves to use on a Stasis Warlock, and is the key to keeping this build meta. Osmiomancy Gloves say your Cold Snap grenades have an additional charge that recharges quicker on direct impact, which means if you throw the grenade directly onto an enemy, you gain a little bit of grenade energy back. The amount of it differs based on the tier of enemy, but at mini boss champion tier, you get 50% back. There are two ways to play Stasis Warlock stemming from Osmiomancy Gloves. One is the pure Cold Snap variant. This variant is primarily using Cold Snap grenades, throwing them onto beefy targets, and having strong freeze effects go around the room. That's one variant. The other variant is to lean into the Bleak Watcher Warlock aspect and create little stasis turrets, and your goal is to bombard the arena with stasis turrets and lock down the room. There is no right answer in my opinion. I personally love the Bleak Watcher playstyle, but I also recognize that Cold Snap has some serious effectiveness. So it is up to you. I encourage you to experiment which one you prefer better and in what activities it suits you better. For subclass, most of it is the same between the two variants. You have Healing Rift, you only have Penumbral Blast as your melee, and you want to go for Cold Snap grenades because this is how Osmiomancy benefits your grenade setup. The first aspect is the same for both. It is Ice Flare Bolts. Shattering a frozen target spawns seekers that track and freeze other nearby targets. This is how you have chain freezing effects going around the room. Your second aspect is variant dependent. If you're going for the stasis turret setup, you'd obviously want Bleak Watcher, which will give you a stasis turret after you charge your grenade up. The Bleak Watcher fires bursts of 5 little projectiles. Each projectile does 20 slow, which means if all 5 hit a target, you get 100 slow stack, and 100 slow stacks means you freeze the target. The turrets themselves last for approximately 30 seconds, last I remember. That number might have changed at some point, but it's around that length of time, so it does sit on the battlefield for quite a while. If you're not going for the stasis turret variant, you don't need this particular aspect, and instead you can go for Glacial Harvest, which will create stasis shards instead. Stasis shards give you back melee energy, so you get Penumbral Blast more often. Regardless of playstyle, your fragments are going to basically be the same. Whisper of Refraction, this will give you class ability energy after defeating slowed or frozen targets. Since that's going to be happening pretty much all the time, you're basically having a lot of class ability energy coming into it too. Whisper of Chains gives you damage resist when you're next to frozen targets or friendly stasis crystals, so you're already going to be freezing a ton of things anyway, so having some extra damage resist is kind of nice. Whisper of Bonds gives you an orb of power every time you defeat a frozen target. You're basically defeating frozen targets all the time, so you basically get lots of orbs of power. Whisper of Shards gives you a boosted grenade recharge rate after shattering a stasis crystal. You might have noticed that our subclass doesn't actually support stasis crystals at the moment, but there are a couple ways you can get stasis crystals. For one, if you have a headstone weapon, then you'd be able to create stasis crystals. But notably this season in particular, you have access to Pillar of Ice. Defeating an encased combatant spawns stasis crystals. Basically, every time you defeat a frozen target, a stasis crystal appears. So that is a very easy way, regardless of your weapon choice, to create stasis crystals on the battlefield. So that's why I picked that for the final fragment. In case you're not leaning into stasis crystal generation, maybe this season passes, or you just don't have a headstone weapon, if you're going for the first variant of using purely Cold Snap grenades, I would say go for Whisper of Rhyme to get some overshield every time you pick up a stasis shards. It kind of boosts up your health. But for both playstyles, I also think Whisper of Fissures can do you no wrong. As I mentioned before, any weapon with Headstone is particularly good for the Stasis Warlock builds, regardless of playstyle. However, I do want to make a note that in my playtesting, the Stasis Turret variant eats up a lot of grenade energy and needs some help getting that back. Therefore, I recommend having a weapon with Demolitionist, specifically a special weapon. The reason why you want a special weapon is because normally weapons with Demolitionist give you 10% grenade energy on kills, but Demolitionist on Sniper, Shotgun, Glaive, and Fusion Rifles grants about 20%. If it's enhanced, it's 22%. Therefore, finding a pretty solid Demolitionist special weapon could be really nice quality of life feature on your build. I personally like the Deliverance from Vow of the Disciple, since you can craft it and get enhanced Demolitionist. But honestly, any Demolitionist weapon will do fine, even primary ones will be okay, for the sake of giving you back grenade energy for the Stasis Turret playstyle. Your mods should roughly look something like this. For the Cold Snap variant, in particular, you want more grenade feedback. If you are playing the Stasis Turret variant, and you're using something like Deliverance or some kind of special weapon as your Demolitionist weapon, you might want to consider throwing on Special Finisher, just to bring more special ammo if you feel like you're struggling. Personally, playing the Stasis Turret variant, I've never found myself in a situation where I needed special ammo very desperately, but in the event that you do, this is an option to consider. And that's my quick little guide of how to play Stasis Warlock. This build has been around for a while now, and has been a very popular playstyle for solo players, or for players that have too many Solar Warlocks already on their team, that don't need more Well of Radiance. This is one of my go-tos, and is always in my rotation whenever I play Warlock, so I figured that I'd share this goodness with you guys as well. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye, Guardians!